Daredevil Season 3. I know you've seen it. Obviously, you're watching this video. Man, if you haven't seen it, go to Netflix now, check it out. I think this season of Daredevil, it must be the best in terms of story. I thought the story was fantastic. The writing in the show was really good. It really took Matt Murdock to another level. And obviously we bring the Kingpin back into the game. And yeah, it was just done so well. There was a lot of crafting to the storytelling, which I really loved in this season. Of course, the action was fantastic. There's another great hallway fight, which is just like they took it to another notch, you know. For me, the best action scene wasn't even that. I know a lot of people are going to talk about the hallway fight. For season 1 and season 2, I think the hallway fights in those seasons were the best action pieces, even though, and as well, I actually think that the action in season 2 is actually the best. I think there was less action in this. But this season, the best fight doesn't come in the hallway fight. And it doesn't come between Daredevil and the main antagonists, or the other antagonists other than Kingpin. If you haven't seen the show, I'm pretty sure you know who that is, but I'm not gonna, this is a non-spoiler review, so I'll let you, if you haven't seen the show and you don't know nothing, I think it's actually good that you just watch it and I don't really explain about the other antagonist and who he is. I'll do a non-spoiler review and we'll talk deeper about that. But I think not even the fight that they have, which a lot of people really like, which was a very well designed fight, I don't think that was the best fight scene. I actually think that there was another fight scene that was just brilliant that happens towards the end of the season. That's all I'll say. Towards the finale of the season, I thought it was fantastic. That fight blew me away. But in terms of the storytelling, I thought it was brilliant. There was a few episodes that I felt were a bit slow. Like there was an episode that focused mainly on Karen Page, and although it was an interesting story, I felt like they put too much time into that. Like they gave her story too much screen time. Whereas I felt like they could have given other characters, like the other antagonists in the show, other than Kingpin, I think they could have given him a longer kind of origin story episode than they did, even though that one was done so artistically. Like I feel like they took Daredevil and then they made it into a bit of an art house film. The camera lenses they used, the style of filmmaking, the storytelling, it felt very art house. It felt just like an art film, you know, or an art series, should I say. And that really worked very well, you know. It was very different. It's a bit different to season 1 and season 2. But I like where they go with Matt Murdock. He really goes dark, you know. Obviously, he's had to recover from the incident that happened in Defenders where he gets buried under the rubble, him and Elektra, and then we see him escape, and then he's in the nun house. So they adapted a few really good storylines from the comics. Obviously, everybody knows about Born Again. That's one of the best Daredevil, if not the best Daredevil comic of all time. And that's a great story arc. And they took, what they did so well was they took panels from that comic, literally on the page, and then they had them in certain scenes, you know, some of the symmetry, some of the compositions and the framing and everything, just the scene itself was like literally ripped straight from that comic book. And some of the themes in the story and some of the storylines that are going on are from that comic book, but then they've kind of got their own stories in there as well. So it's a mixture. I mean, that's what I loved about Daredevil season 1. One of my favorite comic books of all time is the Frank Miller Man Without Fear, which shows Daredevil's origin. Has him with the black suit, you know, has him as a child getting blinded and learning from Stick and all that. And they really adapted that well within season 1, but then they added other stories and they also integrated their own story within it, and I thought that was very well done. And they've kind of done the same with season 3 with the Born Again story and with their own adaptation of that. Obviously it's not a straight adaptation of the Born Again story, but it is like a homage to that with other kind of story points in there, and I thought that was really good. This is going to sound weird from someone who's such a huge Daredevil fan like I am, one of my favorite characters, and I absolutely love what Netflix have done with season 1 and season 2, Marvel and Netflix have done with season 1 and season 2. But I wasn't as blown away by this as everybody else has been, because if you look online, I'm sure you've seen plenty of reviews where everyone's raving on about how this is the best season ever, how it's so fantastic, and it is. But for me, I wasn't as wowed as when I saw season 1 and season 2. Maybe it's because my expectations are so high and that I heard so many like really good things about Daredevil season 3, like it was the best thing ever. So when I saw it, I wasn't like completely blown away. I did enjoy it and I did think it was a fantastic season, you know, and obviously the bar is so high, so it is hard to kind of surpass that for me. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was as good as season 1. That's just my opinion. And I don't think the action was as good as season 2. Like, I thought the action in season 2 was really good. You know, season 1, the action was brilliant as well. But season 2, I thought they took it to another level. Season 3, I think the action was on par kind of with season 1. And maybe slightly not as good as season 2, but that's just my opinion. There were elements of season 1, some fight scenes, some action sequences that were like, oh, this is amazing. They've kind of gone up a notch. But overall, I would still say that season 2's got the best action and season 1 is the best season overall. But season 3 has the best storytelling, you know, in terms of like a filmmaking, artistic piece. Daredevil season 3, its story is really good, really strong. Some of the best writing of any television show that I've seen in quite a few years. And I think that's why a lot of people are really gravitating towards this show and this season. But like, as a big Daredevil fan and as a big fan of the TV show and someone who's really looking forward to it, I wasn't as blown away as everybody else is. But with that in mind, I still give it like I'll give it like a 4.5 out of 5. You know, it's still a top-notch show, still the best thing on Netflix. In my opinion, it's the best thing on Netflix in terms of TV shows. Anyway, it's been missed. It's been 2.5 years, something like that. It's been 2.5 years. I can't even remember. It's been a while since Daredevil season 2. You know, and we've had to watch all these other guys. You know, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, which I really didn't like that show. Obviously Punisher, which was really good. We've had to watch all of those shows, Defenders as well. Got to see Matt Murdock in that, of course, but we've had to wait a long time to see Daredevil come back on the screen. So, you know, I think it's a kind of nostalgia almost now that we're seeing Daredevil back on the screen. So I think everybody's excited to see it again. And obviously it's got high standards in terms of the quality of the show. And they obviously met the high standard in this season. So definitely check it out. Definitely worth checking out. Matt Murdock at his darkest, you know. I like the fact that he was going through he had to overcome a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And just almost like, I love the fact that he goes back to the black suit. The black suit is my favorite. I've mentioned this before in other videos. I love the black suit. I think the red suit's great. It's still good, but I prefer the black suit. I just think there's something very real about the character he is. You know, he's not a superhero. He's a normal man with extraordinary martial arts skills and obviously extraordinary senses, you know, that seem magical, but his senses are just so intuitive that he can taste, you know, food across the room, and he can hear heartbeats, and you can sense what's happening around him. He's got just extreme heightened awareness. So he's a man, you know, he's not a superhuman. So I like the fact that he's in that costume because it gives him a bit of vulnerability. You know that he can actually get hurt, and it's something that you would think a guy who's a lawyer by day and a vigilante by night would dress in. He would just get some random black outfit, you know, that blends in with the night, and that it's practical enough for him to fight in, and it feels inexpensive enough for him to have created. So I just really love that suit. It just tells a story of who this man without fear really is, who Daredevil, who Matt Murdock really is. He's a man who is taking the law into his own hands, and it's his combat skills, really, his fighting, his martial arts skills that really get him through the night, rather than a superhero costume, you know. So that's why I really love that suit. You know, it tells a story in and of itself. But anyway, Daredevil season 3, again, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Comment down below. Let me know if you have seen it. Let me know what you loved about the season, what you didn't like about the season. Love to know your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's being a bit overhyped, or do you think it deserves all the credit it's getting? Again, don't get me wrong, I loved the season, I loved the character, I thought it was fantastic. Just don't think it was as good as season 1 or as good as people are making that to be, but it's still fantastic. Definitely check it out. Anyway, I'll see you next time for another video, and remember, behind every fight is a great story. Peace.